living in conceptual worlds. So if you've ever come across non-duality, then you'll know what I'm talking about here. So non-duality literally just means not to. It just means not to, meaning that there's no separation. There's no separation whatsoever. So most of us, before this is seen, can feel like we're separate individuals. You know, like there's me here and there's somebody over there, and we're two separate beings. But when it's been seen through, that collapses, and it's just clearly, obviously seen that there is no over there and there is no here. There just is this, and there is no separation. And you are this, all of it. But what I've noticed is many can stay living in the concept of non-duality and be so focused on the words that they actually miss this completely, because the truth is very simple, and I think that's probably why it's missed so easily, because it's very, very simple. It's a very simple seeing. But yes, so I've heard, obviously stories, I've heard stories of people in the 70s, 80s that have listened to non-dual talkers and speakers for years, and they're just didn't, and they're still seeking to this day. And then you get those, you know, where grace happened and they was able to have their own direct seeing of this. And what often comes from that is a kind of like, oh my God, it really is just this. It really is just this. And then there is this feeling of like, wow, I was really so focused on the words, on the language of non-duality and all of the concepts that I was missing just this, life itself. I missed all this. That's what can seem to come. Yeah, and it's a bit like what Bruce Lee says, actually. So he says something like he points at the moon and he says, but don't focus on the pointing, the finger, because then you'll miss the moon. The moon is not in the finger or the pointing. It's just trying to point to something. Because actually what non-duality is trying to point to is indescribable. There are no words really for it, and all words drop into duality, separation. So it's any words trying to point to this is just sort of like trying to describe what this is or point to it. Yeah, but what I found here is I can't seem to fit in, to just stay in non-dual language, because I never actually seeked for non-duality. I was seeking, you know, when I was identified as just this Donna, I was actually seeking for something, for truth, if you like. And it took me all sorts of rabbit holes, you know, and this whole spiritual journey of seeking for something that I knew was here, but it wasn't being experienced from being identified as Donna. But when it finally did get seen, it got seen through, and then the identification was clearly seen. All of a sudden, non-duality just appeared on my YouTube. The algorithm all of a sudden just chucked non-duality into my world. And it was great, because it was like, oh wow, there's actually a whole world of people talking about this, and they have a whole language for it and a way of talking and pointing to this. And that was really lovely to have, to be listening to all these different expressions of people describing and pointing to this, of what had already been seen through here. But what I do notice is that in a lot of these circles, sometimes people are afraid to just express and be who they are, because they feel that like they have to come correct with a certain kind of language. Now, I love the non-duality language. It's not that. It's just that I don't know how I'm going to express from one moment to another. I really don't, and there's a freedom in that. It's liberating. I have no idea how this is going to express. And I still use, I just tend to talk normal. I can drop into the non-duality sort of talking, because it's beautiful, and it can be very poetic as well. But I also just talk normal, so I use the words I, we, and I also say things like I don't want this, and I'm not interested in that. But it's no longer from a level of Donna doesn't want this, so she's trying to avoid something. It's not from the level of identification, it's more of preference. There's still preferences. There are still preferences here. And I guess the preference of the expression here doesn't like to be boxed into any particular kind of expression. So I will use all sorts of different ways of talking. Because in the non-duality world, if you like, there's this, and I've done this, I do this all the time, because it can be really useful to just try and describe what's trying to be pointed at, like how there will be language used as like there's no self, there's self and then there's no self, or there's the absolute and then the relative, but it can be misunderstood as if there's an absolute truth and then there's the relative truth, but actually there comes a point when it all just collapses, because it's just like two sides of the same coin, and it all just collapses. It really does. And then it's just this. So I think that's why people just end up saying it's just this, or they end up just dropping into the silence of this, just this, of just life itself, expressing, and our life itself can express and appear as a limited character, pretending it's just that limited character, and that's just how life is appearing. So there's nothing wrong with anything anymore. When the clear seeing is had, now from the level of being identified as that character, they can seem like there's something wrong and there's something missing, and then there can be this kind of outward seeking for all sorts of things. We seek in all sorts of ways, not just spirituality or non-duality. You know, we can seek in love and trying to obtain some kind of love that we believe is outside of ourselves. Seeking happiness when happiness is already here. Yeah, so there is just kind of level of peace. There's just kind of this baseline of peace of what you are, silence. Silence of the nothing, I guess, which everything arises from. So you're nothing and everything. So those words collapse, and there is just this. You know, sometimes using words, even saying just this can be too much, because all words are in duality. Yeah, but I just wanted to talk about that. That even I can get misunderstood sometimes in the non-duality circles, because I express however I express. I will use the words I, we and things, and just talk however it comes out, however it wants to be expressed in the moment, without any thinking about it, no monitoring it, no watching it, no thinking whatsoever. It's just flowing. So however it flows out, or however this flow expresses this, if it expresses it in more of an absolute kind of way, you know, more direct, or sometimes it might express it in a more relative way, you know, within the play of duality, and neither really matter at this point. You know, there's mattering and no mattering. It just becomes words are just empty. So now they can be used light and playfully. There's no stickiness. There's no absolute language to land on. Yeah, because all words are made up, you know, so even calling it just this, or even saying go back to your awareness, some people could identify as the awareness, as if awareness is a real thing, but it's just another word. It's just another word. Consciousness, it's just another word to describe something. It's just another word. So there is no sort of landing on words, no more. Yeah, so there is this feeling from here that I don't need to fit into any boxes, not even the non-dual boxes. I love the expression of it in that way, how it can be quite direct, the pointing of it, but I absolutely don't need to express it in that way all the time no more. So there is a real beauty. I like to say everything's the same but different. I've said that for years. Everything's the same but different. Within the sameness, there is also uniqueness. You can't distinguish anything from anything, but there is still this uniqueness, the play of duality within the non-duality. So it just collapses again into the it's just this. Life itself, I like to call it. It's just life, and you are that. All of it in all its beauty. And I like to, you know, a way to check to see if you are living in this conceptually. I mean, it's obvious when it's obvious, but if you're not feeling it, you know, if you're not feeling the aliveness or the in loveness of what this is, it's like a unity, no separation. If that's not felt, then there's probably still concepts being lived in. And being used to stand on, or being used to sound correct because they're afraid of how they might be seen, because this is whole non-duality police, language police that can often come in around these circles, which is beautiful in itself as well, you know, attempting to point something more clearer, if you like. Yeah, but for me now, there's no feeling or need to land and sit in any boxes. There is just this freedom to express this however it wants to be expressed in each and every moment.